Hello and welcome to the Career Speakeasy, a casual, fun, and irreverent place to share ideas about career development, the world of work, and life in general. I'm your host and proprietress, Kelly Nottingham. Growing your career should not be boring. So come on in, pull up a chair, and pick your poison. Back in my previous company, I did a lot of traveling, going across North America and the Caribbean to deliver multiple day training programs to large groups of leaders at all levels within the company. I was literally at the front of the training room, sometimes for groups as big as 100 or more at a time, speaking, leading discussions, and getting to know tons of people within the organization. High visibility, right? Well, you'd think. The problem? While I was delivering these marathon training classes, the rest of the talent management team back at corporate was working away in their offices, having meetings, discussing new projects, making decisions about who would work on what, brainstorming ideas and solutions, and I was nowhere to be seen. Not by choice, but by the very nature of my work schedule. So I ended up missing out on planning meetings. I missed out on brainstorming sessions. I missed birthday celebrations, the water cooler chats, and those I ran into so-and-so at the coffee machine kind of updates on major initiatives going on at the company. I missed our team meetings and all of the information that went along with them. Now, don't get me wrong. I love to travel, and I am in my happiest place standing in front of a room of people for training. There was a tremendous amount of freedom to the whole living out of a suitcase, seeing the world kind of work. But one of the most surprising drawbacks was the lack of visibility when my job took me to lots of different locations. Not visibility to the people directly in front of me, obviously, but the visibility to decision makers back at the corporate office. The world is being much more open to remote work nowadays, to being a digital nomad, and that's fantastic in so many respects. If that way of life calls to you, great. But there are some really important things to keep in mind. Invisibility might be a superpower to some heroes, but it is not going to get you very far in your career. If you work remotely, invisibility becomes an enemy to your success. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing a lot of strategic ways to keep yourself not only visible while working remotely, but to actually grow your career while working remotely. Now, in a separate special episode, we're going to delve into leading remotely, ways as a leader that you can more effectively manage your remote employees, whether your whole team is remote or you have a blended or hybrid team of some remote employees and some in office. So if you are a leader, keep an eye out for that episode that's going to be coming out soon. Now, before I get too far into this topic, let's address something that's probably already scaring some of the introverts who are listening. Introverts, you will really need to build up some tools for visibility because you are especially at risk of going the way of Wonder Woman's airplane. It's invisible. For those of you who are too young to remember the cartoon, how she actually flew the thing without being able to see gauges or levers is a larger question that was never answered to my childhood mind. Anyway, you are at risk of going invisible. You are also 100% capable of keeping your visibility high without having to pretend you're an extrovert or go against who you are as a human being. In fact, you may find that your ability to be visible is actually better when working remotely. The world needs to hear your ideas and perspectives, introverts, so please don't turn this episode off. All right, the areas to look at as we discuss this topic will look familiar to anyone who wants to manage their career. These are common big buckets, and we just have to approach them in new ways. So we're going to be looking at your current role performance, building additional opportunities for growth and advancement, proactively managing your network and your professional brand, and advancing your learning and development. Now, these are accomplished through basically two pieces, strategic planning and tons of communication. So let's jump into some specific approaches to handling each of these. Current role performance. In order to hit the mark on your current performance, You have to know what that mark actually is. One of my favorite demotivational posters, if you've never heard of these, you can go onto despair.com. I love these. They're basically sarcastic motivational posters. One of my favorites says, "Consistency. It's only a virtue if you're not a screw up." We want to be consistently achieving what's expected of us, not consistently missing the mark or under-delivering. And when we work away from our leader, it can be so easy to miss the mark without realizing it. Things are left unsaid, assumptions are made, and the next thing you know, you're having a talk with a capital T with your boss about slipping performance or not hitting your goals. You and your leader need to be on the same page with what your goals, metrics for success, and deadlines are. No, change that. You need to be more than on the same page. You need to be in the same paragraph, on the same sentence, reading the same word at the same time. Know what your performance is rated on. What is your leader looking at to determine how well you're doing your job? Specifically. This is especially important if your role has changed or if it's become very fluid. You can get diverted so easily into a new project that you think is your primary task, but your leader only sees as one of those when you have time kind of projects. So if neither of you are sure what your job performance is rated on, then it's time to have a chat. The two of you can come to an agreement around what you'll be working on and have regular, ongoing meetings to discuss your achievements. If your job is changing a lot, these meetings are going to need to be much more frequent, and you may even need to focus on achievements on a shorter timeline. You want to do those important things that are critical for your job success, and you want to visibly do those things. You've heard me say it before. It's not enough to be competent at something. You have to be visibly competent. Otherwise, people won't know what you can do. And this is especially true when working remotely. Decision makers can't just easily stumble across you in your work like they can in an actual physical office. So report what you're working on. This is a non-negotiable. If you aren't sure how your leader and team want to receive this information, ask them. Give them the info they need so they know what you're working on. If your leader doesn't have a set system in place to measure this stuff and keep track of it, then you do it for yourself. You figure out a simple, easy way to track your work and share it with your leader. Who knows, they may want to use your setup as a best practice for the rest of the team. Now, to really blow their socks off, don't just go through the checklist of my job requires A, B, and C, and I have done those 3 things. Look at how you're solving problems for the organization or team through your work. If you've been going above and beyond, then share that too. This shows that you're doing more than just getting by. Now, this kind of trusting transparency with your leader also means you have to be open about your workload, where you need support, and where you might be struggling a bit. Your leader is not going to be able to pick up on nonverbal cues as easily, only through voice and video. So it's going to be much harder for them to tell if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're struggling, or if you're feeling bored and unchallenged. Your leader can't answer questions you don't ask or help if they don't know that there's an issue. Be as visible as you can in good ways. So that means not just silently sitting on a video call, slowly fading into the background. Being in the meeting is not the same as being part of the meeting. Prep ahead for something you can share. If you get nervous on camera, ask questions in the chat. Just don't go silent. Don't make yourself invisible. Be sure you're getting information that's shared before, during, and after meetings that you may miss because you're not there in person. When I was traveling for work a lot, I got no notes or summaries from the team meetings happening while I was in training, so I had no idea what was going on. My solution for that was to enlist a meeting buddy on my team who shared notes from the meetings that I missed. So one of my colleagues would take notes after meetings and share with me, so I was always in the loop. When I knew I'd be missing meetings, but I did have questions for the team or ideas I wanted to suggest, I would ask my meeting buddy to bring them up for me. Hey, Kelly asked me to ask this question. So I was at least kind of visible. Now, if you find that you're missing a lot of meetings due to scheduling issues, especially if you are in different time zones than the rest of your team, guess what? It's time to talk to your leader. You're a part of the team and you need to be treated as such. We have to find ways to essentially recreate water cooler chat, that informal information that gives you a lot of new perspectives and ideas for ways to solve problems within your organization. We need to still get that water cooler chat with our team and with other people who are on other teams. Now, this is where your networking skills will come in handy, but more on that later. Next, let's look at ways to build additional opportunities for growth and advancement. As we discuss this segment of building your visibility, you're going to find some overlap with the previous section on your current role stuff, and we'll end up moving pretty fluidly into the networking and branding stuff here too. That's a good thing. That means that you can streamline your energy efficiently. So as we think about remote work, this is one of the biggest facets that concerns a lot of people. How can I move forward in my career and get new opportunities, projects, or a promotion or a raise if I'm not in the office and front of mind for leadership? Shocker here. You have to communicate. You have to be deliberate about your professional branding, and you have to be strategic in ways that support the goals of the team and the organization, not just yourself. So let's look at some specific ways that you can do those very things. In order to be seen as a really useful resource for the organization, you need to know what problems your company or team are facing. Now, I don't know about you, but when I would find out about company issues that needed fixing, it wasn't through formal channels. Once it got to formal channels, there was usually already a plan in place and a team put together to implement that plan. No. The place you find out about the good stuff is at the water cooler, so to speak, before the problem is solved. Those casual conversations with people in other departments, or a conversation in the elevator, or the chatter that goes on before a meeting starts or ends. And as someone working remotely, you won't get those opportunities unless you create them for yourself. Your world may get bigger when you're working remotely, but your work worldview gets way smaller. So we need to get that higher level perspective to see how we and our work fit into the big picture. So our first line of reconnection is to stay connected to our own team beyond just the job and tasks at hand. This includes celebrating events and what we generally think of as team building. Technology can help us so much here, but only if we use it well. So here are a few ideas to stay connected with your team beyond just team meetings and updates. Start sharing what you're working on this week and make it something that everyone does, either on a team dashboard or on a group messaging program. It's important that this isn't too, big brothering of the whole team, or I'm watching everybody, or trying to track who's finishing their work or not. This is just simply a way for people to realize what others on the team are working on beyond what might get discussed in a team meeting. You may find out that someone in your group is already working on a project that you thought you were going to be working on, and your leader thought that they had told you that the other person was working on that thing, but they hadn't. Plan for team coffee chats or regular times where everybody logs on. Again, video is ideal, with no work-specific agenda to cover. Instead, focus on getting a conversation going around maybe larger strategy, or what other teams might be working on, or what your pet's doing right now. The goal is just to give opportunities for connection. We all know that work talk comes up when people who work together get together, so you're not going to have to force it too hard. Another point of connection might be through your meeting notes buddy. Now, if they're also striving to stay well connected, reach out to them on a regular basis to share that non-official, non-meeting stuff. They get double points if they are physically in the office. But if your meeting buddy is not really a social person, or is someone who doesn't often seem connected into other people who are in the know, then you can take this on yourself. Think through the people you know who always seem to be well connected to what's going on. You may find that there are several areas in your company where you could benefit from some work-appropriate scuttlebutt. So for our listeners not in North America, scuttlebutt is like the rumors and gossip that's going on. Reach out to them regularly to find out what's going on their side of the business. And here's the cool thing. You don't have to be secretive or sly about it. Tell them that you're just looking to stay connected into the bigger picture and that you think that they're a great person to stay in touch with regularly. Chances are that person is going to be pleased that you're thinking of them, and they're going to realize that they can benefit from the relationship too. So one big moral here is to think strategically about your communication. Your communication should be at multiple levels within the company, maybe different departments, leaders that you know, and people on the front line dealing with customers. It should be in multiple ways: video chat, texts, email, phone calls, and it should be both casually done and sometimes formally done. One key to making this successful is to do it regularly. Put it on your to-do list. As you do this, let's slip into some additional discussion about managing your brand. Proactively managing your networking and your professional brand can bring out the icky factor for a lot of people. You may think that it's kind of salesy or pushy or uncomfortable. But what we've already been talking about, reaching out to people who can share info with you and that you can share info with them, well, that's networking. And as far as branding goes, I like to think of it this way. What do people believe or say about you when you're not around? What do they understand about your quality of work and the experience of working with you? That's your brand. When you're working remotely, because you're pretty much never around, well, this is why managing your professional brand is even more important. In some ways, you can manage your work reputation a bit easier. After all, nobody has to see you spill coffee on yourself on the way back from the coffee machine when you're at home versus when you're at the office. However, this means you need to be even more aware of the reputation and brand that you build with the limited access to people that you'll have while working remotely. Business etiquette has changed with the rise in remote work, so take cues on what is appropriate for your organization from your leader and others within your company. This includes looking for best practices for using chat. For example, when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate to use the chat function during virtual meetings, dress code, when and how to log on and off for meetings, using the mute button, using video or not, and so on. Let's say that you tend to be quiet and introspective in meetings. You tend to listen really carefully, you absorb information, and then later on, you talk to your peers or your leader about your ideas once they've had time to kind of marinate. Now, in a remote setting, anyone who isn't involved in both the meeting and your follow-up discussion after the meeting may just think you have nothing to say or that you don't care about the project. That could be completely untrue, but if that's what someone sees, that's what they may believe. As you build your strategy for remote working, think through the connection points that you have with other people. How often do they see you? What do they see when you're interacting in a meeting? What do others believe about what you can contribute? If you answered, I don't know, then it's time to start actively putting yourself out there. And I don't mean writing a letter to all the senior leaders at your company saying, "Hi, I'm Bob. I'm really good at building Excel macros. So if you need macros, I'm your guy." Nope. We're going to do this in a much more organic and frankly less creepy way. So if you log on to every remote meeting a couple of minutes late, people will think, this is one of those always late people. Boom. You have a reputation for not being reliable. If you never have any questions about projects during meetings, people may think, they really don't care about these projects. And boom, reputation of not giving a flying flip about the company. If you get onto your video call chats looking like you literally just rolled out of bed, people may think, are they actually working or are they just sleeping and laying around all day? Boom. Your reputation of being expendable when the budget time comes might be happening. Now, let me say this here, and you've heard me say this before. I'm not saying that you have to walk on eggshells all the time out of fear of what others may think of you. What I am saying is that we have to give a little thought on a regular basis to how we may be perceived by others based on the short window of time that we have to interact with them when we work remotely. If we make the effort to ask a thoughtful question or two during a meeting, to be on time, to be organized enough to know what the meeting is about that we're in, then we're building a reputation brick by brick of being focused, reliable, and a problem solver. What else can we do to manage our work reputation while remote? Well, I'm going to say it again. Report what you're working on and do it in a way that's easily shareable by your leader. What does that mean? Well, it's harder for your leader to share your successes with others when you just discuss them out loud during a meeting or a one-on-one call. Provide a written summary in whatever format best works for your work to your leader. Your leader can then take that information and share it up to their leader or to others who need to know what you're working on. And this brings up a bigger point that can help you with really actively building out your career opportunities. Find ways to make life easier on your leader and your leader's leader. This is a work mantra that my friend and colleague Ray Jackson of Career Bloom Consulting says, and it's absolutely true. Now, this could be as simple as volunteering to take over leading a meeting that your leader always has to lead, or it could be offering to spearhead a larger project. What about offering to share an update on what you're working on at the next team meeting? Or organizing a way for your team to stay more connected through an online group or chat, for example. Next, find ways to go beyond your role or team responsibilities. Now, obviously, do this only if you have the time to do so. Volunteer to take on that new project or to help out another team by being your team's point person. Many companies have employee resource groups, book clubs, and learning opportunities that you could also get involved in. When you work with others on something, also be sure to report on their successes too. This demonstrates your willingness to share credit, and by touting the success of others, you're showing yourself as a person interested in the professional growth of your colleagues. This can prime others to start thinking of you as a leader. These tips go even further when you're expanding your network at the same time. Don't let your networking pool get stagnant because you're only communicating with people you already know. As you work with people you already know, let them know you want to expand your network out. Is there someone in another department that could help with this issue you're facing? Have the person you know introduce you to the new person. In this way, you'll actually build your network and make it bigger instead of just watching it shrink. Our last area, but definitely not least, advancing your learning and development. It is so easy when you work remotely to leave your own learning and development to chance, especially if remote work is new to your team or company. For a while, everyone feels like they're in a holding pattern. We just need to stay afloat. We just need to get the work done. We'll think about the future in the future. Well, friends, the time to think about the future is the present, and learning can have a very broad definition. You don't have to get a certification or a degree to gain powerful skills. You can literally learn off of the internet in bite-sized pieces and put those skills to work right away. In the learning and development world, we call these ways of learning micro-learning and just-in-time learning, little snippets of knowledge right when you need them. So what do you want to learn? What skill would help you right now? Maybe it's getting better with your video conferencing software. Maybe it's learning a new skill related to your industry. Maybe it's just keeping up with new developments in your field. Don't think huge learning. Think, what can I learn in 15 minutes a week? Doesn't that sound much more doable? And this is going to be such a shock when I say this, so prepare yourselves. Report to your leader about what you're learning. You can even report out to your whole team or network, or even do it on LinkedIn. A helpful tip you just learned about using your conferencing software, or an interesting industry article you just read. Again, not only are you building your own knowledge base, but you're helping others to learn something new and showing your leader and others that you are forward thinking. So all of this information and these ideas are great, but the best ideas are the ones that actually get implemented. So this is big. Are you ready? You need to put this stuff into a system. So it's as automatic as those water cooler chats are. They just sort of happen because of the system that you have in place and the situation that you're in. You need to schedule this stuff on your calendar so that it actually happens. Don't leave it to I'll remember, because I promise you won't. You want to make sure you're prepared for your team meeting each week? Schedule a reminder on your calendar to prepare in advance. You want to update your leader on your work progress? Schedule time on your calendar to do it. Every week, every month, whatever. You want to expand your professional network? Set a reminder on your calendar to reach out to one person per month on this day at this time. You want to keep up with your teammates? Schedule 10 minutes a week to chat with them while you both have coffee or tea. Yes, it feels structured because it is. It's building a framework for your success as a remote worker or a digital nomad. It is so easy to let the everyday of our work lives take over, and especially working remotely. Months will go by without us reaching out to someone that we want to stay connected with. So don't trust your brain to remember. It has enough on its mind. Your brain's mind. You know what I mean. All right, it's time for last call. We're going to keep this light and easy, listeners. Two things only for this episode to get you started. Number one, how will you let your leader know about the work you're doing and the opportunities that you want? Number two, what one reminder on your calendar would help you be better connected to your team or network? That's it. Now let's go show the world what we can do. Bye. If the pandemic lockdown has made you aware of some major changes you want to make in your career or life, I can help. Maybe you realize you hate your current job, or that you're holding yourself back from making a big life change that deep down you really want. Now is the time to start building momentum for the future. I've spent my career in professional development and training at Fortune 100 companies, leading training initiatives and coaching people from frontline employees to executive-level leaders to improve their relationship to their work, their colleagues, and themselves. If you think some non-judgmental support and gentle nudging would help to get you going, give me a call to discuss one-on-one coaching and consulting. If your organization or company is ready for an injection of new ideas, energy, and practical tools to improve company culture and efficiency, let's chat. I have off-the-shelf workshops ready to bring to your organization on topics like effective communication, change management, presentation skills, and a suite of leadership development workshops, just to name a few. Custom workshops are also an option. For a 30-minute complimentary consultation, email me at kelly.nottingham@gmail.com, go to kellynottingham.com, or reach out to me on LinkedIn or via the links in the podcast notes so we can see if I'm a good fit for your needs. Well, thanks for joining me. If you have suggestions, feedback, or just something random you want to share, email me at careerspeakeasy@gmail.com and come visit again soon. Cheers.